Are we just one part or together one part of the whole? Today we'll be exploring the meaning of oneness and its impact on whole living with California-based singer-songwriter Aliza Hava and mental health specialist Patricia Petrone of Rochester, New York's Whole Wellness Services. My name is Amanda Ashley, and this is Afternoon Cocktail, episode 100. Welcome. Aliza Hava, welcome to our show. Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks for having
me. Oh my goodness, I can't wait to get into our conversation because I know you'll have so much to add. Your music's wonderful. What are you going to open our show with?
This is a song called Natural State, and in the theme of oneness. This is a song that when I wrote it, I was really searching for connection to something bigger than myself, and also realizing that, you know, the personal practice of meditation and the discipline of meditation can really take you out of your mind and connect it to the greater whole. And that's essentially what this song is about.
Beautiful. Can't wait to hear it.
Do I believe in something that isn't real? Why do I feel caught inside a wheel? Around and around and around she goes. Where she stops, no one knows, but one thing I know for sure, my love is real and pure, but I've been taking too much time running round inside my mind, so I can't see what's in my face. A natural state of grace. La-di-da, la-da-da, la-di-da, la-da-da, la-da-da. I can't tell a lie. I've been through this before. As hard as I try, I can't find the cure. 'Cause I believe what I believe, and if I don't ever conceive of something beyond what I know, then I will never ever grow. And if I'm caught in my head, my heart may beat, but I'll be dead, 'cause I ain't living as a whole, locking the door to my soul. So won't you wake me from this dream, 'cause every little thing isn't what it seems. Take me to a place where living in a dream is a natural state of grace. State of grace. State of grace. State of grace. Wake me state of grace. La di da, la di da, la di da, la di da, la da da, la da da, la da da, la di da, la di da, la da da, la di da, la da da, la di da da da. State of grace.
Yes, Aliza Hava. I love it. I love your themes. It's that's what really drew me to your music. Just looking for people to kind of spiritually connect with. And I saw your post. Actually, I believe it was yesterday, right? About you have a relative that was a Holocaust survivor.
Yeah,
Am
actually,
I-
all of my grandparents were survivors.
The post you had written about that, and I saw that somebody commented, and that you commented back that you um, don't consider yourself religious, but you've been told that you're like the most spiritual, non-religious person ever, and that's so funny to me because I kind of feel that too. But I mean, could you elaborate on that more? Like, what do you feel like music is your spiritual connection to everything in life?
Absolutely. I mean, it's kind of two different questions in a way because, music for me is by far the most powerful connective thread to God in my life. And, when I think of the word God and how it's been used over the centuries and kind of distorted, it makes me really want to be careful about using the word God. I use the word God all the time, but I have my own definition of it, which is really the source of all life and the energy that weaves through all things. Not only human consciousness, but earth consciousness and the cosmos and all the cells. And so it's much more of like a quantum understanding of God. Um, in terms of how quantum physicists look at the universe and the cosmos. So that's I just want to say off the bat, when I say God, that's what I mean. I'm not thinking about some patriarchal figure, that's kind of like beating a hammer over everybody who doesn't do right. And in that sense, like getting back to your original question is like, being a religious or non-religious person. So I was raised around a lot of religious people, and for better or for worse, like I was exposed to a lot of information, that Orthodox Jews stand by, that they live by, ethics, commandments, and just the way that people are said to, should be living their lives. I mean, essentially the golden rule: treat others as you would like to be treated, right? That's the essence of the faith. And that's something that weaves through all of the faiths to some extent. But you see over time, like as you grow up, I saw that a lot of the hypocrisy in this religious approach was just really it's just disheartening. People talk about God and faith and this, that, and the other thing, and then treat other people like garbage. Like it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't believe what I believe, so you're worthless. Or if you don't believe what I believe, you must be a heathen. And even if you think about Christianity and what the Crusades did, destroying people's lives. Like there's a song that I've been working on for a while, and like I haven't finished it yet, but there's a line that I just feel is so poignant. And I mean, the line is, if Adam was a sinner and Jesus was a saint, why did they go spilling blood in his name? So we talk about religion and God and love and golden rule. Anybody who goes out there and kills other people in the name of God, or hurts other people in the name of God, clearly doesn't know what God is, and makes me as a person just go, whoa. Like, I'm
No,
not
I
down with
hear
that.
you.
Yeah.
I was raised Catholic, and I never felt aligned with. I mean, there's certain values I suppose I align with, but for the most part, I just never felt a divine connection to my birth religion, you know? But I find in life that like I definitely feel spiritual inside. And I really have always felt like for me, music as a musician has been my one true like connection to everything that has value in my life, you know? And it's continually allowing me to connect with people in important ways. And um, I don't know. I sense that through reading about you and studying, you know, your work and your history. I mean, it seems like so. Can you tell our audience like a little bit about your humanitarian work? I mean, across the globe, throwing concerts. I mean, can you tell us about your beginnings and what brought you to where you are today?
Sure. So, yeah, this is, a part of my story that I haven't really shared too much publicly, but I'm starting to feel more comfortable talking about it, especially after this last year and really doing a lot of introspection. But I, as you said, my grandparents were Holocaust survivors, and unfortunately, that created a very painful reality for me as a child growing up. There was a lot of violence in my household, and I was a very sad kid. I wasn't intentionally sad, like I wasn't born a sad kid, but when you're exposed to that all the time, nonstop, um, it hurts.
Yeah.
So, and I didn't really have many friends growing up either. So I I started to talk to God when I was very young, or my understanding of God. And I felt a presence in my life when I was very young. And it wasn't something that I could put words to, but it was like familiarity. Like I knew that God was there in some sense. And and so I kind of developed this like childlike personal relationship with God over the years. And sometimes that would be stronger than other times. That was just the reality. But when I was 16 years old, I was very depressed. And this book, I'm sorry, I wasn't 16, I was 18, senior year of high school. And someone gave me this book called Be Here Now by Ram Dass, spiritual teacher. Very popular book in the 60s, in the 70s, and the 80s, even. Many people have had spiritual transformations as a result of this book. And I did. I had a full blown spiritual awakening from from reading this book. And it wasn't anything that was necessarily analytical per se. Like you read a book and it's like you think about it. It wasn't like that. It was like I read the book and I was turned on. It was like my soul was like, "Hi, I'm here. Welcome to reality.
Yeah.
You are a soul in a human body, and you've been in many bodies before." And it was like full blown. I didn't know this at the time, but mystics and people refer to this as God consciousness. And I didn't even know what it was. I just knew I was like full blown awake. I could feel God's presence everywhere. I could feel other people's emotions. I could see people's energy fields. I could hear what they were thinking, but not in a way where it was like audible. And it was not a hallucination, and it wasn't a psychic or a schizophrenic break. It was like a full blown like awareness. Like every single cell of my being was like alive and listening. And after a few weeks, that went away. And I was like, oh my God, bring me back. Like, I don't want to live in this world unless I have that kind of consciousness, because like everything else sucks. Once you've kind of gone to that place where you feel like all of life is connected. I mean, that was the essence of like the oneness that you're talking about. I felt it.
Yeah.
I felt connected to everything. Even my tire got flat on the highway, and I was like, it's meant to be. God wanted my tire to get flat. It was like peace with everything, total peace, total joy, unconditional love. It was all part of this experience. And this like deep, deep, deep knowing that this life is an illusion. and we're just like actors in a movie. Like you read about that sometimes, like when spiritual teachers talk about, oh, we're just actors in a movie. I felt it, you know. It's like I felt it for a couple of weeks. I lived in this space, and so when I came back to my, you know, human self, and my, I feel like it was like my higher self was awakened for a number of, like I said, a number of weeks, and then I kind of went back to my like human self, regular consciousness, and I just started praying. I was like, oh my God, please bring me back. I'm sorry, whatever I did, like bring me back. I just want to live in that space. And I started researching all these different religions, spiritual paths, trying to figure out what happened to me and how to get back there. And I just kind of gave my life over to God. And I said, I just want to be in service to the divine. That is my, like, I don't want to be here unless I'm serving God. And I made that conscious choice when I was 18 years old. And things started to happen in my life that I never ever would have expected. Um, I was always a bit of an activist. Even in high school, I was like putting on Earth Day concerts, and like I was into you know, saving the rainforest and things like that. You know, what could I
Yeah.
do? I was like 16, saying, save the wolves. You know, but as I got older, I started to realize that, you know, I could make a difference with music, and music was really powerful medicine for me. And I also felt like when I would play, like I would feel like these songs were coming to me from a higher place or a deeper place, you know, simultaneously. And I just wanted to like share these songs that would help wake people up, or just help like spread a message of an important cause, or um, heal heal
Mhm.
people and heal myself in the process. And so over time, you know, I did that throughout college, just producing concerts and studying music therapy. But then when I got out of school, I got an opportunity to work with the United Nations, and producing concerts for different for different things, like Share the Spirit of Peace Youth Summit. I helped with that on the organizational board, and then there was like a concert in the plaza there that I helped produce. But the way that I ended up working in the Middle East and in the Israel Palestinian region, um, you know, that was really completely by chance. You know, um, I just kept meeting people that were working in that world, and they were like, "You have to come, you have to be there, you have to work there." You know, it's like it was a calling that I didn't know was going to happen.
I mean,
Yeah.
how has that those experiences, like, I mean, to travel like that and to be playing music, I mean, how has that shaped your perspective and what has it shown you?
Well, you know, it's really true what they say that the music is the universal language, right?
Mm.
So everybody loves music, unless you're an extremist. You know, unfortunately, there are extremists in religion, um, both on, you know, I'm not going to get too deep into it, but there are some religions that forbid listening to music. You know, I don't
Mhm.
think that that's coming from a place of God or spirituality. I think that's coming from a place of control and trying to control people's minds and not give them like that freedom, because music lifts the spirit, it lifts the heart, it empowers, it makes people feel alive or heard or emotionally connect to others. You know, like you were saying earlier, it's a very powerful force, and there's no accident that like every single religion uses some form of music, like aside from these, you know, this extreme, you know, that we're talking about, but uses some form of music and sound for prayer, right? So the hymns or the chanting in Buddhism and Hindu,
Mhm.
songs that worship the the all present being, you know. There's music in almost every religion, so there's a reason for that. It's the highest form of praise, you know. So
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like how I was affected working and living and singing and in that part of the world and traveling all over the world. Really, I worked with an organization called the World Peace Prayer Society, and I would help to facilitate the peace prayer with the flags of all nations. I was actually at the United Nations International Day of Peace ceremony um, in 2005, singing to the General Assembly, and the flags of all the nations came out, and like it's pretty powerful because it's a prayer, but it's not like a prayer to any one specific religion. It's more like a call to the world, like may peace prevail on earth, and people holding the flags of all the nations of the world. So you get this visual experience of like being connected to everybody around the world through the flags. And I'm not a very nationalistic person, or I'm not so into like the idea of the flag is above all. It's a symbol, and but it's a very powerful symbol when you have all of the flags of all the nations together side by side. It creates this like equilibrium of all nations. So
Yeah.
that was really like what was guiding me, and I just think that it just really brings people together. Music brings people together, and it helps heal the human heart and the spirit, and it's an age-old reality.
For
you know
sure. And I love that you've been recognized. I mean, you're a recipient of the Human Spirit Award presented by the International Organization Talent for Humanity, and also featured in a book with seven other internationally acclaimed artists and activists. I mean, congratulations, first of all. And second of all, I mean, did you ever in your life think that you would get recognized on such a global level?
Definitely not. I had no idea. It turns out that the founder of the organization had been following my work for a while, and he reached out to me, and he's like, "Yep, you're getting this award."
It's amazing.
It's like, really? Okay. Who
What
are
an
you?
honor.
No, it was, and he's a very special person. We became friends over the years, and it was definitely an honor. Something that you know, I didn't really feel, at the time, that I was like, what, why me? I'm just doing my little thing over here. I don't feel like I made like any kind of huge impact. Maybe on a small scale. Like inspired some people, but you hear about people who do these huge projects that change the world, or create like wells for villages. And, I just felt like I'm playing music with people and doing projects to help like bring people together. But I don't know, maybe I just didn't see that it was effect. I don't know. It's hard to see when you're in it, you know.
Sure. Well, I'm glad. That's why it's always good to get that recognition. Ugh, I can't talk. The recognition, because often people, a lot of people see things and see some things in us that we could never see ourselves, and you need to be reminded of that. So I'm glad you were reminded for because I think what you've done is extraordinary, and definitely worth being proud of. Um, Aliza, I wish I could talk to you for so much longer. I want you, can you tell us what's up and coming for you? Do you have anything, like any new releases that we could look forward to?
Yeah, so I'm getting ready to release an uncut version of one of the songs on my album that came out last year. Um, it's a it's a song about love, and the person who I wrote the song about is someone who came into my life in a very powerful way, almost like a whirlwind. And throughout our journey together, we had a very powerful healing, but that healing also ended in a really shaken up kind of way. And writing the song was my way of healing. And when I put it on the record, I had to actually edit the song because it was like 6.5 minutes long.
Oh wow, it's a long one.
It's kind of a
Yeah.
long song, but it's a real story, and it's a real deep part of my story and my journey. And so I'm working on a music video. I'm going to put out the uncut version sometime in June. So I'm working on that, and I'm also starting to write an album about about the healing process, of, growing up in an environment that was very painful and then overcoming it through time. And, um, it's kind of going to be a process for me. But I just feel like I said before, music is very powerful, very healing. And yeah, so working on that.
Excellent. Well, I can't wait to hear more from you. You guys go, those of you that are watching back home, make sure you go check out Aliza's music. She's on Spotify. She's on all platforms, I imagine. Which and tell them your website, Aliza.
It's alizahava.com. And yeah, I'm
She's
on
got some
Instagram.
amazing videos up there. She's on Instagram. Yeah, I just love your work. I love how honest and compassionate your work is, and it's refreshing to hear that, especially these days, right? We could all use a little bit more inspiration. So
Thanks, Amanda. I appreciate that.
yeah, much appreciated, and good best wishes to you. Thank you so much for being on our show. Hey,
Absolutely.
Patricia. Welcome
Hello.
back, girl.
Can you
How you
hear?
doing? Oh,
I'm
I could hear you.
excellent. I am great. Aliza, that was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, seriously.
Really,
Patricia, I mean, last time we had spoke, we were talking about, well, it was just winter was beginning, right? We were talking about some seasonal depression and getting through these darker months. And could you believe that we're almost already out of them? Where's time
I
going?
can't
It's
believe
crazy.
that. It seemed for where we're from, Rochester, as if it was sort of a fast winter. It definitely wasn't as intense weather-wise as it could have been, which I think was a blessing for
For
people
sure.
that we've had a couple of warm spells and you see all the people like just flocking outdoors,
Coming to life.
yeah, trying to escape the quarantine. um so yeah, we're here. We're like on our way out of this terrible year experience. I hope everybody's out there getting their vaccines.
Yeah,
um
I'm getting mine
I
next
did.
Wednesday. Did you?
I
Both?
felt nothing. I felt nothing, people.
Oh
Pfizer.
my God.
So don't be afraid.
I've never thought I'd be ever excited to get a shot in my life. I would like
Pfizer.
pass out like every time I'd get like a needle put in my arm. So, I-
Yeah. I never used to get my flu vaccine. Really just chalked it up to if I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get sick. But guess what? This is different. Like, we need to be done with this, everybody.
yes,
Let's do the thing. Let's be done.
absolutely. Well, Patricia, I'm like curious. So to pick your brain about oneness from your perspective. I mean, so working in the mental health industry and in your field, um, I mean, how does oneness apply to the self, and our well-being and feeling whole and finding that fulfillment?
Well, I'm glad that you invited me onto this episode because my practice is even called Whole Wellness Therapy Services. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to start my practice sort of on the foundation of, we're not just going to bring you in and talk about your current symptoms and leave the rest of your being out of it. Like, how can I really give people a holistic experience? And I think when you're asking how does oneness relate to the self, I think that life is a journey of trying to integrate everything that's going on inside of us, into like a firm foundation. And I really do think that that does take a lifetime of exploration, and that we cannot really reach wholeness or oneness without kind of doing that work, number one, and also without kind of taking a step outside of ourselves and seeing how we connect to the people that are in our immediate surroundings and how we connect to the greater world. So it's almost like to reach that oneness within yourself, we as humans are dependent on those connections around us. And I think it's absolutely imperative to kind of feed that fire every single day. Um, and I think in a lot of ways, this past year has really reinforced that and shown us how badly we really do need each other as a species.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you've seen the effects of sort of the isolation and what it's done to everyone. And I think it's just really driven this point home that we need each other. But I have heard a lot of positive stories of uh, clients and even friends, and even for myself personally, of the world kind of slowing down and it giving us this kind of odd chance to reconnect to ourselves and the people closest to us, even if we couldn't physically be with them. I don't know about you, but I've experienced a lot of that this past year.
Oh my God, this year, like, I feel like has been so introspective. Like I find myself like reflecting all the time. I've always kind of been like that, but I mean, a lot of it has to do with the show. Like this show was really a way of me keeping that connection alive, and just keeping my mind busy with something that was going to be healthy, mentally stimulating, and also giving me that connection of picking brilliant minds. And I don't know, I can't believe like 100 episodes. I've learned so much about myself, like in all these topics and everything that I've researched and learned about and just dug deeper. Like I really feel the most connected to myself than I ever been. And it's it's so worth all the work and all the stress. Like it really was worth every single ounce of it.
And thank you. This is a service to all of the participants. This is a service to all of your listeners, the inspiring topics, and just trying to feel connected to something during a time when we can't physically see each other. We can't physically touch each other. We're separated by this kind of freak thing, but we're still, as humans will, finding a way to persevere, finding a way to retain our connectedness, because we truly need it. We cannot
Yeah,
survive without being connected to one another.
absolutely. And the whole oneness is really the foundation of the show because the way I looked at it, is like I know that I'm not the only one that's experiencing a hard time, like when things shut down, it was part of that recognizing that. And this year, if anything, has just brought to light to me that, like, you know what, we're all human. We all bleed from our veins. Like water comes out of these sockets. We feel, and our human connection and our human emotions are real things. And I think often when before all this, the pandemic hit and we had this slowdown and didn't have the time to really dig deep and to think about these things. It's stuff that like we're aware of, but that we just kind of blow off, right? Because we don't have time to deal with it or we don't prioritize it the way we should. But we could all be such better people at the end of the day and better to ourselves if we really take an hour of our day to meditate, to reflect, to count our blessings, to hold your child a little bit longer, to do all these things that mean that bring life meaning, you know?
Absolutely. I think, one of the things that I heard a lot and also, again, experienced myself when the shutdown happened and the world kind of really went quiet for a little while there, like late March, early April. People kept telling me, "Oh, I'm having a lot of dreams right now. Like I'm dreaming again." And I really felt that that was so fascinating to see how our brains really start to work again and open up again when we slow down a little bit and don't
Mhm.
spend every waking moment of our day stimulated by something, which is really the world that we live in now. And I think that constant stimulation, that constant focus on a stimuli really keeps us from reaching our full internal potential for creativity, honesty, connectedness. I think that it really blocks a lot of that. So, my hope for everybody out there this past year is that at least they got a little bit more of that introspective time that you're talking about. As compared to normal life, I think that this was a collective trauma, but also a gift in some ways. Um,
Sure.
and I say that with a little bit of reserve because I know there are people out there that this time was extremely difficult for, people that lost family members, people that had really tough financial hardships. So we can't discount their experience by any means. That's a whole different ball of wax. But for those of us that were lucky enough to just take some time, I hope that, you experience that sort of lightness and, just a little bit more space, taking space.
Yeah, definitely. The space, I think, and I hope this changes people for the better. Like, sure, it's easy to look at the negative side of it, right? Um, Nobody enjoys being locked up or, having their passions and the things they love taken away from them. But I think just reconnecting on a human level really it makes all the difference. I think just really get in touch with the fact that okay, it's okay for me to feel. It's okay to cry. It's okay to like I've done more crying on this show. I said earlier, like I'm like I don't even know why I do this to myself. But you know what? I feel good, and at the end of the day, so what? It's a little embarrassing, but at the same time, I'm feeling, and why should I be ashamed of that?
Yeah, I mean, and it makes you, more relatable for people too out there. And it shows people that you can be vulnerable and be an achiever. You can be successful and be vulnerable. And as I was saying earlier, I think, especially in American culture, we're sort of obsessed with this idea of independence and toughness and not really being interconnected and not asking for help and not showing our emotions publicly. And, I really hope again that this experience has sort of changed the world. I hope that the world maybe doesn't exactly go back to the way that it was. I hope that people are kind of taken aback by this and able to see how important and how vulnerable we really are, and I guess how important that connection is. But just the fact that this thing stopped the entire planet in its tracks, that's how vulnerable we are. Like every day that we have is a gift because anything is possible, anything can happen. um, and I hope that people aren't just gonna like wash their hands of this and go back to the way things were.
Sure, me too. Patricia, I mean, do even therapists need therapists, or do you seek
Absolutely.
therapy in other ways? Yeah.
Yeah, so therapists are we're really advised from day one when we're doing our training that having a supervisor, like a clinical supervisor, not only to help with our cases but to help keep us sane is a good idea, and then also to have our own actual therapist. However, I will say as a therapist, it is a little bit tougher to find a therapist that you really connect with. I think that's a trend in the field just because we're kind of behind the curtain, so to speak, and we can be, I think, more critical when we're out there trying to choose a therapist because we're really picking on, shouldn't really be watching the clock, shouldn't really be
Yeah.
cutting someone off mid-sentence. Like, it's just a little bit harder as a therapist to really lock in with your person. But absolutely, therapists, I think, maybe more than anyone need their own therapist, because we're kind of acting as the absorber all day. We're just absorbing other people's energies. And a lot of the time people are coming to us with a lot of really negative energy, and we're just acting as that kind of buffer and reflection point for them. And I think ultimately you can feel extremely drained if you don't have your own kind of like place and your own sounding board. So we do need therapists for sure.
I was gonna say, I mean, like even like you're saying, like this was the pandemic was, trauma for everybody in a way, so like you, I'm sure, have had your days that were more difficult than others, I mean, when you're having an off day like that, how hard is it for you to concentrate on your own work?
I think it can be very difficult. I think that the more time you have in the field, the better you get at kind of turning off what's going on for you, because you sort of have to in that moment. You can't make the session about you. You can't come in showing that you're having negative emotions about something that's completely unrelated when you have somebody in your office who's really hurting and kind of needs you to be present for them. And if you're thinking about, what happened at home before you left, you're not being fully present with them. So you do, in a way, really get sort of conditioned to being able to leave it at the door. But there are some negatives to that, like what we were talking about earlier, just sort of feeling like at some points you can get a little bit disconnected from your own emotions in a position like this, because you constantly have to put your own emotions aside. That being said, we do, I think, deeply feel the emotions of our clients as well. So it's almost like a substitution happening again. Like emotions will find a way to prevail always, whether or not we try to stuff them away. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition there. Like, you learn to put your own emotions away, but then you might have a client who has had something terribly sad happen to them, and you're really trying to hold back your own stuff that's coming out, and then
Yeah.
we're human, it happens. But yeah, I think it can be very difficult, and you have to have your own support network. And like we were just saying, you have to have your own sort of therapeutic outlet to be able to be fully present for your clients.
Sure. I mean, can you speak a little bit to self-care? I mean, how important that is for those, experiencing maybe a difficult time, um, not to dismiss the things that they love to do. Like, how could
Yeah.
uh, give us some suggestions, maybe even like on, like with the warmer weather coming out, like how to enjoy life a little bit more.
Yeah. So, I think I want to speak to this point. I think right now there's a huge wave in mental health happening where it's really becoming super popularized, which obviously after, decades and decades of this area being super taboo and like everybody trying to shove it away, it's having like a revolution moment, which I think is fabulous in a lot of ways. However, I also think there are some people out there getting so wrapped up in self improvement that is constant, that it's becoming almost like a compulsion and another way to hide from true emotion. So I think there's a
Mhm.
fine line there to be aware of when you're practicing your self care. And I think self-care, I think people really kind of mistake self-care sometimes for being like this regimented activity that I have to get done, or I'm just not going to be well. And I really feel that actually a lot of self-care is being able to truly let go. because we're in such a regimented world already. We're in such an anxiety provoking world already that kind of adding more to your plate in that way can be detrimental to some people. So I know that's kind of like a controversial perspective right now, but I think like being able to let go and being able to spur of the moment say to yourself, I'm going to go take a walk on the canal, and maybe it wasn't necessarily a planned thing, is like the greatest level of self-care. Being able to be spontaneous, being able to say, you know what, I don't need to get that work done this afternoon. I'm going to go for a walk with my significant other. I'm going to take a long drive, just kind of without planning. I'm going to take some think time for an hour that I didn't necessarily put in my book or schedule in. You know, I think we become very obsessive about, in the morning, I get up, I do yoga, I have my smoothie, I meditate for an hour, I watch my Tony Robbins, and then I go to work, and then I come home and I go to the gym again. It's like, it's a lot, you know?
Yeah.
And
No,
like,
I do know.
really, are we escaping from ourselves still doing that? You know? I mean, that works fabulously for some people, but I don't think it's realistic for everyone. You know, I think it can become a tough point for some people still.
I think that you open yourself up to a little bit more clarity by allowing yourself to be a little bit more spontaneous. I actually had a spontaneous day yesterday, and at first I felt guilty because I thought I was slacking off for this very show. I wanted to refine like the questions that I had for you guys, and I hadn't written my outro or anything yet. So like there was a number of things I could have done, and I had a small window before I had to go pick up my son from preschool, and it was so beautiful out. I decided, instead of going on my computer, I'm going to go walk for an hour around North Ponds in Webster. And I did a lap. I had just enough time to do that. And I went back and get in that sun and just a little bit of exercise, and being in a beautiful place, like brought me mentally to a good place. Like I felt like I was in a really great place yesterday, and it reminded me that I need to do more of that, and not to be so regimented as what you're saying. And it's such a good point. I
Yeah,
definitely feel that. Yeah.
that would be like my hope for people right now. Like in a world where we seemingly cannot escape the grind, even if it's for ourselves and like taking care of ourselves, would be to let go of the guilt of that kind of spontaneity. I even have been thinking like of getting a huge sign in my office that just says, let go. Let it go, baby.
It's true. It's
um,
true. And it's worth letting go because, I mean, I know time is a struggle for everybody, right? There's definitely not enough hours in the day. I feel like I could always be working, no matter what. It's so hard for me to like just sit on a couch. Like, you have no idea. But, just to get yourself in a quiet space, and meditating doesn't have to be, like sitting and amen, like you could be taking a walk and listening to your Tony Robbins during your walk,
right.
or doing whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like finding true balance means, having some things that are structured, because structure is good for us as humans, but also having time that is unstructured. I feel like that is true balance. When we think, but people ask me, well, how do I get to balance and what does balance mean? And I think true balance means really letting go of your guilt. I think
Mhm.
guilt is a very destructive emotion. I think that we feel it far too often. It doesn't do us any good most of the time. It doesn't change our behavior the vast majority of the time either. And I think, approaching a balanced place takes a long time. It does take work. And I do think its foundation is letting go of your guilt. And I think, a huge part of that is sort of not focusing on, I need to do A, B, C, D, and E, or I have failed.
Yeah.
I think that's one of your questions there that I saw on the pre-show sheet was, what is something that clients come to you a lot with, and what is, a trend? And I really feel that's a huge one. People coming in and feeling like they're not doing enough, but they're truly doing everything. They're pushing themselves to the absolute max. They're
Yeah.
not getting the results they want, and they still somehow feel like they're failing.
Yeah. I definitely know people like that, and it's true. I feel that way too sometimes, but yeah, it's very true. Patricia, thank you. I love having you on the show. Hopefully, if you ever want to do it again sometime, I feel like I could just always like talk to you endlessly.
Thank you.
Tell our audience where they could be directed to your services if they need to seek some help. Please go see this wonderful woman and her team of beautiful therapists.
Thank you. We do have an all-female team. We are always taking clients, and we try to get people in within 7 days if we can. And we do have reduced price offerings if you are in a tough position, especially right now with the pandemic. But we are a private clinic. We're located in Pittsford, New York. We do virtual therapy through all of New York State, and we do coaching nationwide. And you can find out more about us at wholewellnessservices.com. That's whole, WHOLE. And we're on all the socials and stuff. So definitely connect with us if you're looking for a therapist.
You rock, Patricia. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Aliza, could you close us out with one of your jams, please?
One of my jams. Thank you. I just wanted to say I really enjoyed listening to your conversation, and I thought there were a lot of important things that you shared right there. I could definitely relate, and know a lot of people who could relate to that as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely good stuff, girls. Thank you.
All right. This is a song called Rise. My brother's been shot down. My sister's been battered and used. My child has been handed a gun. Mother's been raped and abused. Daddy's got one foot in the grave. He's still crying over someone he couldn't save. And I'm watching all this pain, and you say it's just a game. We will rise, stand upright, we will burn like candles in the night. We will learn to sing, not to fight unless it's for our freedom, right? We will hold each other's hands, try hard to understand. Liberty is our demand. We are one people, one land. Some live a life of illusion, not knowing of another solution as we breathe in the deadly pollution. You know it's a shame. We will rise and stand upright. We will burn like candles in the night. We will learn to sing, not to fight unless it's for our freedom, right? We will hold each other's hands, try hard to understand. Liberty is our demand. We are one people, one land. Oh. been sold, all the lives, all the lies we've been told. If we keep moving along, we will sing a new song. Yeah. We will rise and stand upright. We will burn like candles in the night. We will learn to sing, not to fight unless it's for our freedom, right? We will hold each other's hands, try hard to understand. Liberty is our demand. We are one people, one land. Oh, one people, one soul. One people. One people, one soul. One people, one people, one soul.
Awesome, Aliza. Thank you so, so much. Awesome. Make sure you guys go, since you're on Facebook, after the show, I want you to please go like both Whole Wellness Services and Aliza Hava's page, and make sure you check out Aliza's music online as well, and on off of her website as well. I can't believe we're at episode 100. 100 episodes ago, I had an idea, a very loose plan, and a burning desire to improve and to reinstate my purpose as we lived through and experienced some of humanity's most historically challenging moments. And connecting with nearly 200 souls locally, nationally, and internationally, I've gained a wealth of introspection. This journey has taught me the profound impact that sharing our stories, experiences, and life lessons can have on one another. If there's one thing we can never be short of, it's inspiration. The show is created with oneness in mind, as I firmly believed from the beginning that despite our differences in race, spiritual beliefs, sexual preference, politics, social and economic status, that we all possess the common thread of humanity and human emotion and connection and experience. We can continue to draw the lines of division and choose to see one another for our otherness, or together we can grow, learn, and thrive in oneness by embracing the awareness each unique existence brings to light. I believe that our constant efforts to educate ourselves on relevant topics, the quest to constantly improve by asking those hard to answer questions, and sometimes by asking even the wrong questions, will bring us much closer to understanding one another on a deeper level. I believe that loving and finding acceptance within is the key to loving and accepting those around us. I believe that the work is never done, that we need to prioritize our values in a way that not one thing that is important to us ever gets overlooked or neglected. I believe we all deserve to be happy, fulfilled, and that we each possess the ability to serve one another positively. I believe mental health is and should always be our number one priority. I believe spirituality is beyond the constraints of our birth-assigned religion, that is deeply rooted in our connection with our earth and the souls that inhabit this great planet. I believe pain and vulnerability are the truest tests to defining meaning, resilience, and perseverance. I believe that listening and keeping an open mind is the surest way to showing one another respect. From the ground we walk, to the oxygen we breathe, to the lives we touch and the love we receive. We inhabit this planet as one species whose potential is only limited by the constraints which we self-impose. Lift one another by choosing to see the good this world has to offer and accepting with an open heart and mind the unique beauty we each have to offer one another. I hope more than anything that our themes and conversations have brought you enlightenment and have inspired you to take a closer look within. Thank you for getting us here to our 100th episode. Cheers to you. Cheers, Patricia, and to Aliza. Thank you, Beau Productions. I could never do this without you. And to our show sponsors, Rochester Woman Online, Chris Sirianni at itinsightsrock.com, and also to Bridget Hogue at Empire Realty. You guys have a blessed weekend. We'll see you at 101 on Monday. Bye. You girls rock.